And good evening, Rando fans. We are back with another race in the Link to the Past Randomizer Spoiler Log Tournament. I am Cool Papa Bell 2282, and my co-commentator tonight is Clear Mouse. How are you doing tonight?
Hello, good evening. I am completely excited for this match. There are actually very few things I could think I would rather be doing than watching these two guys race on a very nice Saturday night.
Yeah, we're into the 2-0 portion of the Swiss round, which means the matchups are getting really intense, and we've got two really great runners tonight. Furaime versus oase28. They are definitely really high skill level runners, so this should be a great matchup between these two.
Yeah, if you told me that these guys were like 12-0 and this is like the grand finals of this tournament, I probably also would have believed you. I mean, these guys are titans in their own right. Furaime is a very prominent runner for the Portuguese community. Oase is a very prominent runner for the Spanish community. So I mean, this is really a battle of the international titans here.
Yeah, this will definitely be a good one. And yes, so for those who maybe have not seen a spoiler log tournament before, or tournament race before, you see those timers counting down for our runners. While the seed is randomized, all the items are placed randomly, the runners actually know where everything is. They're given a log 15 minutes before the race starts, and they can take all that time to sort of read through the log and plan out a route for the entire race.
And also, just as a matter of convenience, because the racers have the spoiler logs at their disposal, chances are we're not going to see a map check anytime soon from these runners. So, as a courtesy, our great tracker Star 1468 has already pre-marked the crystals and pendants that we need, including the medallion entries for Meyer and Turtle Rock.
Yeah, and that also means for the spoiler race as a whole, the runners are just going to be going flat out. They'll be picking up very few extra safeties, so spoiler race is really a good test of runners' low percent execution. So we will definitely see that in this race tonight.
So cool, Pop Bell. Do you have any predictions for how many hearts that these guys are going to pick up along the way?
Oh, I mean, 5 or 6 probably.
5 or 6.
It depends on how the armor is. But definitely there are runners who have no problem just going through the game on 5 hearts green mail. So I would be surprised if we see much more than that out of these two.
So I have it on good authority that Oase in his match last week against Verts, he was on the entire run 4 hearts green mail. He was successful, no surprise. And off we go. Looks like both runners are starting out at Link's house. Furaime taking the extra 20 rupees out of Link's house. Now this could be just like a rupee route that he is planning. Also could be muscle memory. It's very easy, when we first get to Link's house, first thing you want to do is going to open the chest. So it looks like also both runners setting up for a tier 1 treat pool, getting more money.
Yeah, that money's important early on if you need to go to maybe the bottle merchant or buy some bombs in Kakariko, something like that.
Also could be early Zora money. Boss is experiencing some lag here, unfortunately.
And we find the flute in the secret passage there, so no surprise both runners are headed here right away to be able to activate that as soon as possible, and blue mail from the uncle.
Yeah, armor upgrade, especially this early, is very, very useful.
So yeah, that means we will definitely not see too many hearts out of these two.
Alright, looks like both runners are taking a very similar route. Both runners were starting from Sanctuary, making their way down to Kakariko. Does not look like there's anything of interest, at least in the Lost Woods so far. Of course, they always can make another trip up there, but chances are once they have the flute, as you mentioned, it's very useful, right? The earlier you activate the flute and they really have it at your disposal, the more mobility you have here.
And actually some divergence there as Oase is going to head up toward the Lost Woods. Furaime grabbing the mirror out of the well.
Okay, so Oase's just gonna make me eat my words, no problem. Oh, we find something pretty useful, a sword. And as Furaime has amassed 100 rupees, enough for the bottle mender, to buy a lamp. Now, of course, like these runners are, I would say, more than confident in their dark room abilities. However, a lamp is also a fire source. So not only, of course, having the lamp would also just basically make all the dark rooms not an issue, so they can go through faster. But that fire source could be something that's actually very important. Let's say, like, if they need to go into Pendant Desert and beat Lambo.
So Furaime grabbing another 20 out of the back of the tavern, and looks like he's going to go buy some bombs. That early sword is pretty important too. So we'll see if there, and then just flutes away from that spot after grabbing it.
Furaime is very efficient so far with his rupees.
Yeah, it's really easily overlooked early on, because normally you just, find a big 20 here and there, and suddenly you have enough money to buy bombs and the bottle vendor item, but you really have to plan that out in your seed.
Yeah, it certainly seems like early on, the fact that they had to go and do the tree pull, find 20 here and there, probably means that there wasn't any convenient, like 100 rupee, 300 rupee hoards laying around.
And yeah, Wasi fluting away from the village a little bit earlier than Furaime, but Furaime does have those 10 bombs as well. Now runners going sort of opposite ways. Wasi's just going to go farm bombs, I think, at these 50-50 spots.
Oh, interesting, because it seems like, right, Furaime picked up some more big 20s along the way. Seems like Oase did not have the opportunity, either he chose to skip that, and therefore did not have enough money to actually buy bombs outright. Okay, so we found 2 heart pieces, some money, some bombs, and the most importantly, the hammer out of Mini Molten Cave. So this is part of, could be runner's strategy. Sometimes when you actually just look for progressive items in these high density locations, some runners choose to cherry pick and get exactly what they think they need, which is in this case the hammer. Some runners just say, oh, okay, hammer's here, I'm just going to grab everything along the way. And it could help me out in the future.
So yeah, Wasi headed to the desert area first to get his Moon Pearl out of Agina's cave, and is now doing Mini Moldorm, whereas Furaime did them in the opposite order. And it definitely seems like that little bit of extra time that Furaime went out of the way to get the cash to buy bombs is paying off, because that little detour that Wasi took to farm them from the bushes did cost him a little bit of time.
Right, so we see Oase in this case. Oh no, he is going to get everything. Yeah, so in this case, let's see. So Furaime is up in Death Mountain. Wonder what he's going to find here. So we have the hammer, and at least on Oase's side, he has the Moon Pearl. So presumably, they're now looking for either a glove, or, well, actually, yeah, they only just need one glove. Or, I mean, if they happen to have both gloves up here, then have the Dark Road access.
So yeah, both of our runners beelining for that mirror and hammer to let them clear out all of the light part of Death Mountain.
So
Furaime taking a dip into Hera.
Yes, and green pendant Hera no less. So could be something on the pendant, could be a progressive bow, just sitting in Hera.
I mean, that's...
No. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's basically an overworld location, right? Just dip in, grab the bow, and duck back out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I wonder what, I mean, so the spell must be pretty important, given the fact that they made it all the way up tier to Death Mountain. And so this could be a Eastern dip next to clear out a crystal. Could also be for something else, or just, along the way to, because I guess they need something out in Paradox Cave. Furaime picking up those heart pieces is now up to a hefty 4 heart containers. We're getting closer and closer to that 5 or 6 that you predicted earlier. Cool pop though.
And so we saw Owasi there had a little bit of false start there, starting to climb Tower of Hera, and then figured out that his bow was just on the first floor there. That first floor chest is called the map chest in a spoiler log, and it's really easy to lose track of which one is the map chest and which one is the compass chest in a given dungeon. So I think Owasi had to sort of rethink his route through Tower of Hera.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so for runners like Oasi, who is very skilled in MG, even sometimes that game knowledge isn't quite, I would say, like as useful, mainly because even in an MG run, you actually don't care about the map or the compass, you care about the big key chest, right? So any amount of like normal game knowledge is certainly very useful here.
Yeah, and a handy way to remember that is typically in the early dungeons, the map chest is the one that you would go to first in a typical kind of rando route. So, for example, that map chest there in Tower of Hera, but the compass chest comes later in the dungeon. It's the one upstairs in the room where you do the bomb jump across to the big chest. In the later dungeons, then it swaps and the compass is first, but it's kind of a nice little reminder that you can use.
So both runners grabbing their hookshot out of Paradox Cave. So far, it seems like relatively similar routes, right? I think there was probably some order swapping, but at the end, these guys have both just converged. And looks like they're both going towards Hyrule Castle, so what are we going to get?
Well, we got a cape out of Dark Cross, which is a little bit concerning to be at Hyrule Castle with a sword, a cape, and a lamp this early on. And looks like Furaime is headed toward Aga Tower.
Whenever you have to go to Aga, it always is nicer to have a Master Sword instead of a cape. But I guess in this case, probably a Master Sword is not available before you have to do the climb.
Yeah, once again, that NMG knowledge is Master Sword Aga Tower. So Fighter Sword, a little bit different.
We actually do see Oase using the hook shot actually quite to his advantage. So early on, when boots are not available, especially for movement, one kind of like overlooked item that actually is useful for movement is the hook shot. In that case, you saw him grab onto chests, you saw him grab onto other things that would basically either save, like quarter of a second there, maybe half a second over there. I mean, these little time saves definitely add up.
Yeah, I learned yesterday that the hook shot moves at 4 frames per second. So that's both when it goes out and pulls you toward whatever it hit. So you move 2 frames per second when you use the hook shot, which is faster than the 1.5. Pixels per frame, not frames per second. Pixels per frame. So you do definitely always move faster using the hook shot to connect to something than you would just by walking.
You see both players making their way through Aga Tower. 4 hearts, although they do have blue mail, is still could be a little bit more cautious. Aga Tower is probably not the most dangerous of places, but it certainly still cannot be kind to runners.
Yeah, both of them making good use of the hammer to dispatch those guards pretty quickly. We also saw that the stun prize is a heart, so if they do run into some trouble, they can always pick up some health that way.
We see Oase making, I think, good use of the bow here, in addition to fighter and hammer strats. There's actually one kind of interesting thing about Rando is that in an MMG you are very prepared for a very specific set of equipment at a certain given time. But for Rando you may not always have, let's say, a Master Sword, or when you fight certain dungeons. And so it's always kind of nice to see runners kind of adapt, and use. So I only have Fighter Sword. What can I do? I only have the hammer. What can I do? Type of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And NMG will definitely help you with your execution, but Rando will always find a way to put you in situations that you would never be in a standard speed run. So it really tests your game knowledge in a lot of ways. And welcome to that raid from SpeedGaming 4. Thank you for joining us. We have just started a match between Furaime and oase28 in the Link to the Past Randomizer spoiler log tournament. And both of our runners are fighting Aghanim 1 right now. I have lost track of how many blue balls that was, but I'm sure chat can help us out on that one.
All right, so Furaime is finishing up Aga 1 right at slightly under 14, or was it 28-ish? So this will be actually a pretty good difference to measure between what the gap is between him and Oase.
Ooh, and there's our red mail right there on the path, as sitting there on the pyramid.
Okay, so it looks like, despite having the bow and the hammer and access to pod, I guess looks like Furaime is choosing not to go there. He also doesn't have enough rupees to pay Kiki, so it could be that he also needs to put that off, but also could just mean that there's nothing in pod. So that's the beauty of having a spoiler log, is this up front.
Yeah, and certainly they'll be able to get back to Palace of Darkness pretty easily with that flute. But the fact that Oase is also passing it up when he's at 108 rupees probably means that there is nothing our runners care about in Palace of Darkness.
Furaime's getting bullied by that thief taking precious rupees that he could be using. And in fact, so I think he has 77, so now he's a little bit... So if he needs to go do a digging game and chess game, he actually will have to go farm some more rupees somewhere. Or potentially find some here in Thieves Town. That's probably most runners' favorite item in the entire game, is getting the boots.
Yeah, that makes it not very surprising that both of our runners are headed there as quickly as possible. And that might also make them put off some other dungeons or various things that they can do faster once they have the boots.
Yeah, certainly when Build Brothers are here in Thieves Town, they can certainly full clear and get this crystal no problem. And if there's anything in the big chest, they already have the hammer.
Furaime did open up a couple of extra chests there, got the map and the compass, which might mean he didn't really have time to plan out his route through Thieves Town and just kind of opening everything, or maybe just muscle memory took over, as very often happens.
Yeah, so the 15-minute study period is incredibly short. it may sound like a lot of time, but in order to figure out everything that you need and have some cohesive way to kind of string it all together and not I guess like make things isolated, or at least to have some path to get to the dark world, you may not end up figuring out what where all the the specific path and dungeons should be.
Yeah, and the runners can keep looking at the log after those 15 minutes are up, so they almost certainly have them open next to their game. But it's, there's a lot to think about. You're thinking about your execution, which is paramount in a race like this, especially on the low health that our runners are on. So, yeah, there's really a lot going on. Running a spoiler race, you don't have to think about, the randomness anymore, but it's still a frantic time for the 15-minute planning period at least, and usually about the first half of the race until you're in go mode.
Furaime had to take a small detour and take a lesser known route, just like Loss is going to do here, because he doesn't have the glove. I guess so. Muscle memory is just going to take over. So like the very common path, right, is for players to pick up the glove and just dash straight down. But these guys don't have a glove yet, so looks like they're going to have to find one somewhere before they can pick up that block.
It's one of those things that Rando teaches you that NMG won't, because sometimes you just wind up here without a glove.
Furaime starting his blind fight. Staying on script so far. So he does have 4 hearts. If he stays on script, this should not be an issue. But then again, you never know. But he executes very well and takes down blind to pick up a master sword. that would have been useful kind of earlier on. And his first crystal at right over the 20-minute mark.
Yeah, this blind fight, one of the trickier ones for casual play, but once you learn the script, it's not too bad to execute through. And I think Oase definitely picked up some time on Furaime during that segment. Was about a minute behind finishing off Aga, but he's going to be much closer than that coming out of Thieves Town. Both runners showing off that spin speed glitch off of the stairs coming out of Thieves Town to get that 4 pixels per frame movement, basically dashing movement speed, but going whatever direction you feel like.
Every little movement advantage or speed up that they can get is definitely time saved. Especially in a match like this, where both runners are certainly very known for their execution abilities. I think Furaime picked up the glove out of Skullwoods.
Yes, grabbed 1 glove and then left. Wase headed toward the back to grab a small key from the vanilla big key chest.
Hey, we see an ice rod on Bumper Cave. 100% required in this. Well, it is required for practical reasons for the seed.
Yeah, Renner's getting double duty out of that cape, both giving them Aga access and that ice rod that we'll need for Turtle Rock. And so, yeah, question in chat about the routing of whether they could have gotten the glove before Thieves Town. They certainly could have, but I think both runners were thinking about just getting to those boots as quickly as possible. So yeah, there are definitely a lot of minor little decisions like that you have to make of, will it save me enough time to get the boots a little bit later but have the glove? And since it really only slows you down in that one room in Thieves Town, I think they opted to just grab boots as quickly as possible.
Oh, interesting. Furaime is picked up a safety out of Pipe Cave. I certainly don't blame him. He does have red mail, but he's still on 4 hearts. So having any type of safety here is certainly very useful, and definitely could be a very lifesaver in the future. Those are very convenient flippers if they're going to make a dive into Swamp Palace.
Yeah, the game leaving the key under the mat, as it so often does.
The route so far that these runners have taken, even through Dark World, it seems to be actually very similar. I mean, it also could just be this is a very linear seed, and they're just going to get shoehorned from one location to another.
Yeah, they're about 25 seconds apart right now, going into Swamp Palace. And yeah, they were definitely kind of shoehorned onto this path. I mean, whenever you have an Aga seed, you're pretty much forced to just grab what you need for Aga and do that as quickly as possible, because whatever is forcing you into Aga, whether it's the gloves or the hammer that are stuck in Dark World, those just block so much of the game that you normally have to prioritize getting them as quickly as you can.
And this really does seem that a lot of the items that a lot of progression items that they picked up were all in the overworld. So it kind of seems like when they're coming into dungeons, they're either grabbing probably like 1 or 2 items, very on specific locations. But otherwise, it seems like it could just be go moding, as it seems like that's what Furaime is doing for Swamp.
Yeah, both of our runners just headed toward the back. Furaime going to show off the diver down glitch.
This could be a place where Oase can gain back some time.
Yeah, Furaime having just a little bit of trouble with that one. Tried a couple different setups, and then got into the water there. Both runners stopping to pick up a heart. 5 hearts red mail, basically easy mode. It's a big old /S on that one in case that was not clear.
I was just going to ask what your definition of basically is.
I mean, I think being either one of these runners makes this game a whole lot easier than it is for me, so...
So both runners starting Argus relatively the same time. Furaime and Oase trying to do quick kills. This is significantly harder than it looks than they're making it look here.
Yeah, blind is the boss that looks hard, but is really easy when you know what you're doing. I feel like Argus is exactly the opposite. If you play it casually, it's really easy to just kind of keep your distance. But when you get into speedrunning it, it's just one of the hardest things to do in this game, is to beat Argus really quickly.
we can actually see that Furaime ended up getting on at least one cycle on the second stage of Argus, where I think Oase just barely missed it. Both runners making very effective use of the ice rod that they picked up. That could have been one reason, along with also just it being in the neighborhood. But having a rod here to fight Argus certainly makes the fight a lot faster.
Yeah, Fire Rod and Ice Rod typically do the same damage to bosses, so either one effective there against that last phase of Argus.
Probably with one notable exception, the Ice Rod probably doesn't do as much damage to Cold Stare as the Fire Rod does.
Yeah, something about an ice boss not minding the Ice Rod too much. Ooh, silver arrows in the Fire Rod. That's a pretty loaded Mire Shed.
The lead changes just keep going back and forth. It's really exciting to watch here. Oh, looks like we actually have some divergence. Oase is making another trip up towards Death Mountain, and Furaime is choosing to go into Crystal Ice. So he does have the Fire Rod, and he does have the Hammer, so I imagine this should be a full clear for him.
Yeah, and has that red cane as well, so we'll see some more relatively new tech with that Icebreaker glitch to get us through the right side. Meanwhile, Wasi is going to take those mitts and show us something in Super Bunny Cave or Dark Death Mountain somewhere.
Unfortunately missing the quick push. I'm not actually sure what the technique is called, but basically when you hookshot over, you can actually make it across and push yourself all the way to the right instead of having it going all the way around here.
Yeah, somehow when blocks are moving, they're not solid anymore, so you can hookshot through them.
Did you say something about the key right under the map, just like Swamp? So we find Ether right next to and Hoshak Cave for Turtle Rock. The seed is just so convenient. Why do they need a spoiler log for this?
Yeah, just go toward a dungeon and all the stuff that you need for it will be right there.
It looks like Furaime pulled off the icebreaker with relative ease.
Yeah, that one is more properly called the door state extension glitch. That the game handles movement in the doorways a little bit differently, just to make sure you don't get stuck in them. So you can use that cane block to convince the game that you're still in the doorway when you're not, and it just kind of decides it's okay to move you through that rail. So both of our runners are now attempting something not so easy. Master Sword, Cold Stare, and Turtle Rock. The half magic will definitely be helpful on Furaime's side, that he'll have some Fire Rod shots left over after breaking the Cold Stare shell.
Also needs to be a little careful. He does have powder, but I think but he did not end up going to Hype Cave and picking up any safeties that Furaime did. And of course, I turned away for 2 seconds from Furaime's side, and I'm now Cold Stare is down for him. So this is crystal number 3.
Yeah, Furaime made really good use of the splash damage on that Fire Rod to make the most out of that half magic bar he had left over.
I was glad Oase had just enough hearts to still be able to do the quick strat with the hook shot. Oh no, oh no! I said too much. I was gonna say that if he actually did not have enough hearts, he would have actually had to just wait on him to do the long way because he couldn't push that over and take damage. Otherwise, he would start at the beginning of the dungeon again. So with Colster down, Furaime is joining Oase on the mountain, presumably going to pick up his Ether Medallion and make his way through Turtle Rock.
Yeah, and we also saw that Quake Medallion, which is required for Misery Mire inside of Turtle Rock, so a lot of back and forth required out of this seed.
Oase is playing with our hearts.
Furaime also grabbing that powder. That's really just the most versatile safety you can have, pretty much, since you can use it over and over again.
Like what Ozzy is gonna do right now. Oh man. Yeah, these low percent runs.
Yeah, another interesting fact here is that runners are allowed to watch the restream if they want to, and that can definitely affect their decision making throughout the game. And Furaime stopped to pick up that extra heart there in Hookshot Cave, maybe feeling like he's a little bit ahead, either from watching the restream or just feeling how the seed is going so far, and picking up that extra heart there for some added safety. And yes, welcome to another raid from SpeedGaming Espanol 2. This is Link to the Past Randomizer Spoiler Log Tournament. This is the 2-0 round of the Swiss for this tournament.
So given that Quake is entry to Misery Mire, and it was found in Turtle Rock, looks like it's going to be a forced at least one additional dip that the runners have to make. So they had to come to the mountain, get Quake, and then go back down the mountain, and presumably come back up again to fight Ganon. So, and given that we didn't really find, I think, anything that useful from Ice Palace, it didn't seem like it seemed like it was kind of up to the runners' discretion on when they would feel comfortable, or they think that it would be just convenient for them to clear Ice Palace.
Yeah, and that's where you look at things like, you know, am I going to pick up a heart in Ice Palace that might make a later dungeon a little bit easier, something like that. But yeah, that's mostly just kind of runner's preference, it looks like, at this point. Oase using the backdoor strats on Trinex and switching to Hammer there.
This is very, very, very difficult.
Ooh, and takes a death there. Unfortunately got into the fight with just 2 hearts to play with, and basically had no margin for error. Like, any damage from Trinex was going to kill him there. And did not take a safety door of any sort, and will start all the way back at the beginning of the dungeon.
So I think this might be probably a minute's worth of deficit. It may not be that long, but certainly this is going to be some ground that Furaime is going to have over Oase.
Yeah, since Furaime has done that Ice Palace already. And we'll see if Oase stops to use that powder at the very end. Could pick up an turn an anti-fairy into a fairy in that last room before Trinex, something like that for a little added safety this time around. But this is sort of what spoiler log seeds do to you, is they just kind of force you to play on the edge of, you know, near suicidal danger and glorious battle. You kind of have to ride that line because you're just trying to save seconds here and there wherever you can.
And you have to give props to Oase here. I mean, taking a death, even if he's not watching the restream or Furaime stream, I mean, like, he probably doesn't feel all that great, but he has executed just as well as he has done before. I mean, and it takes just like a lot of nerves and endurance, basically, to keep going and execute exactly as if nothing happened.
Yeah, and it's worth noting also that there's just no let up during a run like this, right? Because sometimes you know, sort of hit a point in a seed where it's like, oh, this dungeon is easy with the equipment I have, and really, as much as I joke about it, like, no part of this run is easy. It's really just an incredible display of skill from these runners to be executing at the level and with the equipment that they have.
Yeah, I would say so. Furaime is not going to try the backdoor strats, just going to do regular hammer and rods. That hammer hitbox, oh man, is not kind. So Trinex is down for Oase, so this is his third crystal pickup. So presumably, unless there's something else that's up in the mountain here for him, he's gonna head back down. He can do Mire. He can go do Ice Palace. Looks like he can. Actually, he can clear any dungeon he wants. So I think it's just a matter of rounding for him for what he thinks is going to be the fastest.
Yeah, I think that Quake was officially go mode for us. It's worth noting our runners still are on Master Sword, so we'll see if there is another sword available along the route, or if we'll get the Master Sword Silver's Ganon, which feels like the most awkward Ganon fight to me.
So it's Master Sword Silverlist or Butter Silver for you?
I mean, if you're gonna do a Master Sword Ganon, you might as well go all the way Silverless, right?
Go big or go home, right? Or
exactly.
Go long or go home, I guess.
I mean, it's definitely easier to have silver arrows. It's just awkward to have to do Master Sword spins into silver arrow shots at the end.
No,
but maybe that's just me.
I absolutely agree. And in fact, you actually see some NMG runners just kind of go into autopilot after they get Ganon to the last phase, and you actually see them do silverless spins. And sometimes they're like, "Oh no, I actually have silver. Let me go use them."
Very nice from Furaime in that Mire 2 room, using those Fire Rod strats to get all the Whiz Robes on the first cycle.
One of the, I would say, hallmark of a very experienced and high execution runner is actually you watch them do Mire 2, that room. How fast they do it is actually a pretty good indicator of the caliber of player they are.
And Oase just go-moding Eastern Palace. Silvers will make the Armos fight exceptionally quick.
I believe Furaime will have a similar experience fighting Vitreous with Silvers.
Accidental menu from Furaime there.
Yeah, so it looks like he did activate Spooky before he came into Mire, so he kicked us with Dust before placing down the block, so let's see if he can actually activate the rest. So he's going to hit the switch, so it sounds like he's going to hit the spike, which hits the switch. Now he's going to try and hit the anti-fairy to hit the switch second time. Is he going to have enough magic to hit the torch at the end? I guess there's a pot up here. Or he can just hit it with sword beams. Very resourceful, these guys. It's almost as if they've played random before.
Yeah, and getting on just the right pixel for those sword beams to slide past that skull was very nice. And similar routing from Oase through the Ice Palace. Gonna show off this Icebreaker glitch as well.
Alright, so it looks like Furaime has 5 crystals down, so he needs to go to Eastern or Skull. Any guesses?
I would say Skullwoods.
You get a cookie.
Doesn't actually make a difference, but it just feels better to have your last dungeon be in the light world, so you don't have to mirror afterwards. Again, it's dumb, because you just have to mirror after you do Skullwoods whenever you do it, but... just feels better to me somehow.
I think when Oase was here in Skullwoods, he ended up going to the back and picking up a key from the big key chest, is that correct?
Yes, he did.
Okay. So, I'm not sure, I guess, like, what the use of that key was, but I guess we'll see. But I mean, also it just could be that he doesn't have to kill the Gyptos here, because he has an extra key.
Yeah, I think they both just grabbed one key to be able to get to the gloves on the left side. But yeah, I think Oase maybe went a little bit further out of the way than he needed to necessarily for that key.
Oase is constantly in one-hit KO mode. Has to be a little bit careful here. Alright, so we see Furaime taking down Moth with the hammer. Makes it look ridiculously easy. There was also some pretty good RNG for him, and that Moth didn't kind of cooperate and stay towards not the top of the screen. But still, that was a very, very nice and clean fight.
And deep breath on Oase's side, getting through that cold stare fight. Furaime really made that one look easy before. It is not an easy fight. Master Sword just takes so many hits to actually take down those puffs, and you really want to just kind of blow them up in the very beginning if you possibly can, because once they start spreading around the room, it can be a lot tougher. But Oase did very well to get through that one on the health that he had at that point.
I'm noticing a trend that these runners make everything look easy. Is that true?
Yes, it feels that way to me because for me it would be just dying a lot on that particular fight. So
Yeah, I can't remember who ended up I was having this conversation with, but one observation was that we watch these runners kind of like I would say at their current skill level, and their execution, their ability certainly is very polished, very precise, make everything look super easy. What we don't see is kind of all of the years of practice and all of the mistakes that they've had in the past to kind of get to like where they are, right? I mean, so they all started probably dying a ton, but just from all of their practice and experience, this is how where they end up getting. So I definitely don't want to discredit any of like their current abilities here.
yeah, and that's the thing. I think when you get into this game, there are a lot of tricks that look really difficult when you do them. They're not actually that hard to do, but the polish that you see from these runners in executing them very quickly under pressure like this is just really impressive.
Even something like doing that route for oase. So it might even just be muscle memory for him, but he has very good muscle memory. It took a lot of time to end up getting there. Right, so we do see him taking a bit of a safety in this case, waiting for the hand to come down before he falls down. So this is exclusive to the Japanese 1.0 version of the game, in that if something happens to you while you're falling, such as maybe you get hit or take damage, or in this case you get grabbed, you will actually happen as opposed to, and it's a bug, unfortunately. So we just want to make sure that didn't happen. Moth was not kind to oase in this case either. I would say like the patterns also weren't super good.
Yeah, and again, that Master Sword really makes a huge difference in this Moth fight of the amount of time that you're forced to spend in it. Since it's 8 hits with the Master Sword to kill Mothula, and again, on the low health that you're sort of forced into in these runs, when those spikes, they don't care what mail you have, they will do 1 heart of damage no matter what armor you're on.
Oase's just getting bullied left to right. I mean, this is, I don't know what kind of patterns these are.
Yeah, trying to conserve magic a bit there, and the Gibdos got out of hand, unfortunately. Meanwhile, Furaime does have 7 crystals and is on the way to Ganon's Tower. If anyone in chat would care to guess where that Ganon's Tower big key is going to end up, number doesn't make as much sense in a spoiler seed, so if you want to guess a location, as Morguy84 has let us off with there, feel free.
Alright, so Oase taking his revenge on Mothula, picks up his 6th crystal, so it looks like he just needs to go to Meyer, kill Vitreous, and then he can make his way up the tower, up the mountain to the tower.
Furaime going left right away in Ganon's Tower.
So he could just be on the left side, could be somewhere, could be another goodie maybe that he can find in Ganon's Tower before heading up.
Yeah, Furaime did not grab the key from under the pot, but grabbed 2 keys out of the Dark Magician's room there. Another nice one-cycle Mire 2 on Oase's side.
Alright, so maybe Rando Room, it looks like?
And yep, there's that GT big key, and Furaime is equipped with 2 small keys to head up the tower.
We had an almost simultaneous big key pickup. Oase, I think, picked up the big key to Mire all just probably a couple frames after Furaime picked up the big key of GT.
And yeah, apparently no tempered sword available on that left side, so Furaime is starting the climb with just Master Sword.
So Silver Arrows should help him a lot here. Half Magic should also help here through the Gauntlet. Furaime does have a potion with red potion in it, so that's certainly still a safety, and he also has the powder. It was a really nice dash there in that can room.
Yeah, just missed the right spot with the spooky glitch there to hit that switch before the dash started.
Furaime's having a really good gauntlet so far.
Yeah, as you said, that half magic really helpful to just spam out fire rod shots when you want to.
Silver Arrows make Lima 2 incredibly fast. Alright, so it looks like Oase's also done with Mire, so he is free to go up the tower. The mountain and the tower.
That was another example, too, from Furaime of what it means to be really good at this game, because you sort of think, like, oh, you just practice a million times and then you know exactly when to shoot the silver arrows. But Furaime had a very precise setup. He sort of bonked off the wall and did one sword slash to just get the timing exactly right for firing those silver arrows. And that's again just a testament of how Rando makes you good at this game when you practice it. That just in every situation, no matter what equipment you have, you know a strat to be able to get through that room as quickly as possible.
One kind of nice thing about the seed is that, with the exception of, I think, pulling the bow out of Tower of Hera, I don't think we had to dip any of our other pendant dungeons.
Yeah, that's right. We've not had to go into Desert or Pod at all, so that was nice at least. And Furaime headed into this Aga 2 fight, just as Oase is entering the bottom of Ganon's tower. Just missing the triple on that next to the last cycle for Aga 2.
One kind of unfortunate part about the sword or the big key being in random room is that there's only kind of one path to go there. So there's not even, I think, so even if I think if you were potentially behind, there's probably not going to be a lot of time to kind of like make up that time.
Yeah, and also no way to sort of go out of your way to maybe grab a sword, which is why Furaime is on Master Sword for this Ganon fight. 12 spins for each of the first 2 phases.
To answer your question in chat, where were the other 2 swords? One was at Pyramid Fairy. The other one is on right side GT. We see that Furaime has the cape just as and using it to make sure that he doesn't die here.
Yeah, also made use of that red potion, but set up nicely for double spins along that bottom wall there to get Ganon into phase 3.
Oase also having a really nice cannonball room.
And very nicely executed up through that last phase of the Ganon fight from Furaime.
Alright, so Furaime's crossed that bridge and has defeated Ganon.
It's an official SRL time of 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 43 seconds. That includes the 15 minutes of log study at the start of that, so Furaime's timer on stream there basically right on with the SRL time.
For how much these guys have had to do, you know, it's I think a benchmark for spoiler log races in general seems to be right around like the 1 hour mark. But I mean, for how much like these guys have to do, even making 1 hour here is, I would say, like very, very impressive. You see, Furaime pretty much didn't stop, right, moving the entire seed, and everything he did was just super fast.
Yeah, and this was a really rough seed between Aga and all of those trips up Death Mountain that you were forced to do. That's one of those big time sinks that you really try and avoid, but there was just no way around it with where those medallions were this seed.
Yeah, it really does seem like they the seed like front loaded a lot of the progression items that you can get as part of the overworld, and then they kind of shoehorned you into doing Aga 1, and then had the Misery Mire medallion in Turtle Rock, so you had to go up to Turtle Rock to get the medallion to go back down. But after you then you have all your medallions, seemed like then you kind of do the rest of the dungeons almost in go pretty much in go mode and kind of like at your discretion.
And yeah, unlucky from Oase there. Just missed that dash through the torch room. Got hit and took another death there up Ganon's tower. And yes, has officially forfeited in the SRL race. So, but this is a good time to tell everyone in chat to follow both of these runners. As you saw, they're really putting out top-notch execution. Really great runners of this game, and definitely worth a follow on Twitch. So be sure to head over and check out their channels. Furaime join us in chat there. Yes, the compass and map chests are a little bit easy to mess up, especially in Thieves Town. The front 4 chests are kind of just all lumped together in my head most of the time. Also, we should give another shout out to our tracker for today, Star1468, pushing all the buttons in the background and keeping track of all the action. Extra hard to do in a spoiler race where the items come so fast.
Yeah, tracking for a blind run is kind of difficult enough already. Spoiler log just kind of speeds everything up. So definitely thank you very much for the runners and for our tracker. I have definitely looked at the tracker many times to make sure that to kind of follow along like for where the runners have gone. And GG to Furaime. You definitely ran the seed very, very well. Very impressive execution all around.
So yeah, it looks like we will not probably have our runners in for an interview on comms, although of course Furaime is there in chat. So yeah, we'll just take a look at Furaime's final item count here. Any guesses at what that's going to be?
50s maybe? I guess I haven't been tracking too much, but that seems to be kind of like the general like realm of items that are picked up.
Yeah, that would be my guess as well. Usually in the low 60s or high 50s, depending on the seed. But yeah, any other final thoughts on this one? It was definitely a lot of fun to watch the execution out of both of these runners.
These guys are top notch. I could watch these guys for hours on end and not get. You can see Furaime's standards for execution is probably different than us mere mortals. Certainly, Furaime, I say that your boss fights were certainly very good, but your execution in general, I think, was very solid to see all around. You had a very nice gauntlet fight too.
Yeah, the cold stare fight especially. I mean, going into Master Sword cold stare and just not letting the puffs get away and finishing them off with that initial burst of fire rod was really nicely done and really saves a lot of time because you don't want to have to chase those puffs around the room if you can avoid it.
Yeah, so I guess with this win for Furaime, he will move on to the 3-0 groups. I think not everyone has finished doing 3-0 matches, but certainly the people who are 3-0 so far are pretty heavy contenders. So next week's matches should definitely be very exciting to watch for Furaime.
Yeah, there are 7 weeks of the go into the bracket stages after that. If you want to watch more of the spoiler log tournament, please join us in the Discord. There's also a challenge set up for it as well. Just keep an eye on the brackets and matchups and everything. And the Discord, of course, has all that information as well.
Yeah, so I'm actually just looking at the results, and one particular runner who's also 3-0 is a fellow Portuguese runner Kyung92, who is last year's spoiler log champion. So if they happen to get matched up, that will be an incredible match to watch.
Yeah, as the Swiss goes along, the undefeated matchups are just going to get more and more hype. So next few weeks are going to be extremely exciting in this tournament.
And also just for Aussie, so being 2-1 is doesn't exactly mean he has an easy path. They're actually Rando is Rando. Excellent players have a good also have a 2-1 rating. It's definitely it's definitely not a coast. So.
And yeah, we see 67 out of 216 for Furaime. So a little high, but, had a couple medallions to pick up, got 4 heart pieces, and some of that extra money farming at the very beginning. But yeah, I think that will just about wrap us up. Thank you everyone for watching, and be sure to keep your eye on the SpeedGaming networks for more great Link to the Past rando races and speed gaming of all sorts, as you know. So thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much for co-commenting with me, Cool Paul Bell. It was really great. Also really great. Thank you so much for our runners for making this run like such a pleasure to commentate for.
Yes, I had a blast as well. So thanks again, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Have a great night. GG's.